Good afternoon, Valerie Milano, the senior editor of the Hollywood Times and Aspiring magazine, and I'm so glad to have our guest. And I happen to be in Palm Springs today. Let's see where you are. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. Good to see you, Valerie. I'm Liz Ostoich, and I'm in downtown Palm Springs, right up on the hillside.
Yes, okay. Well, Liz, it was such a pleasure sitting with you at DAP Health's Chase Gala a few years ago. I believe that's where we initially met.
It is, yeah.
And we discovered we have several mutual friends, Kate Cassie, Marcy Rosenblum, many others. So for those who may not know your story, how did you go from practicing law to owning four, I believe, of Palm Springs' most beloved restaurants?
Okay, I'm walking because I'm getting away from this dog that keeps barking. I've got two dogs, so if you see me moving, I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
So I was a land use attorney prior to this, and it's kind of funny because I never loved it. So I like food and wine and people and art, architecture, history, travel, all the fun things, all the creative things. But I kind of just fell into being a lawyer because it seemed like it was the wise thing to do, just to be able to take care of myself. But when it got to a place where I just was unhappy because it's so black and white and just not who I am, my husband said, you don't have to do this anymore. And I finally believed that. And so I broke out and I was sitting one day at the farm. It had existed. We actually bought it. It was a small kind of sporadically run restaurant. And I was sitting there having lunch one day, and the then owner said to me, I liked launching this, but I think I'm done with it. And she said, and I think you're supposed to buy it. So I jumped into it. I went home and Mark said, yeah, let's do it. So I jumped into that without knowing anything about the restaurant business. I have never even worked in a restaurant before. And so jumped into that. And I swear to you, Valerie, for the first 6 months, I thought to myself, what have I done? This is the day that nobody shows up. And I've just, sort of bet the farm, if you will.
Yes, so cute.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
That was 2016. So we're a little over 10 years. We just celebrated our 10th birthday. And then after that, we had a chef that was very talented, and he felt like there just wasn't enough that was befitting of his hometown in Mexico. That he felt like, he wanted some more elevated recipes in town. And so we said, well, let's do an elevated Jalisco style restaurant, and that was Tequila. So that was number two, and that was 2019. So we were open. Let's see. Uh, about 11 months before the pandemic hit. So we opened Tequila in March or April of 2019. Yeah. And then the pandemic hit.
Hmm, terrible.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So I bet you saw some changes along the way. I want to start by talking about the south of France. I'm about to leave in a couple of weeks to go there on a riverboat cruise through Provence and everywhere. So farm feels like stepping into the south of France to me. What is it about France, especially Provence, that continues to inspire you?
Well, and I'm glad you said continues because it really does. So we love, especially Provence, but especially the Luberon Valley. And every time we go, I kind of test how we're doing. And I wanted something in Palm Springs, and that's why all the changes with the gardens and everything. I wanted something in Palm Springs that was sort of Provence without a passport, where people could feel like they were dropped in the middle of a European city. And I love the food. I love anything that starts with buttercream and cheese.
Yeah.
so so I love the food there, and I'm glad you said, like I said, I'm glad you said continued, because next year that's our staff trip, if you can believe it. So each year I try to take the management team on a staff trip, and this year it was Costa Rica. We did in July, and next July it's going to be Provence. So I'm excited to share this with the team and let them see the inspiration behind farm.
Yeah, wonderful. Wow, what a nice gift. And I want to talk about the staff in just a little bit, but so you now own Farm, Tequila, Clandestino, and the Front Porch. How do you give each restaurant its own personality while still making them all feel unmistakably connected to you?
Well, that's a good question. I think I believe in designing for a space. So I that's my my heart is in putting together the design and the feel of the spaces. And so I come into a space and I stand there for a long time. I one of my kind of mottos is to pause and reflect. And so I think you need to come into a space, sit there and feel it for a while before you make any decisions. And so each one of them, I try to buy art and buy things that will make it feel like that space. And so I enjoy that part of it immensely. And so farm is definitely countryside. The building was built in 1936. So I try to take a feel from California plein air paintings, paintings from that period, and make it feel, like it's Spanish, like it's, quintessential California, if you will. And so that was farm. And then tequila, our idea was Mexico City 1950s because the mid-century modern movement is important to Palm Springs, but it was all over the world. And so we kind of think of that as like, oh, that's a desert thing. Well, no, that was happening everywhere, in the mid-century, this mid-century modern movement, and it was big in Mexico City. And so we tried to bring in art from the 1950s and really give it that mid-century feel at Tequila. Um, Clandestino, it just kind of happened by accident, I guess, in a way, where I was sitting in there one day and I was looking around and I thought, everything I've picked in this place has big eyes. And so, yeah, so I picked a big mural that's beautiful in Clandestino. So that's kind of the center point. And then each painting has a feature of big eyes. And the chefs at Clandestino and Tequila are very different. And so we've little by little, they were more alike in the beginning because it was Clandestino. The whole idea was that Clandestino was going to be the kind of overflow or takeout arm of Tequila. And we quickly realized that's just not the case. It's got its own personality, and the chef there is off the charts. And so he started to just do all of his own creations. So Clandestino's different. And then Front Porch, our idea there was to do something that was more raw health food and to try to pull away, because a lot of people say, oh, well, farm being buttercream and cheese is heavier. And so Front Porch is kind of gives us that fresh, um, cold, raw feel. So,
Love
that's
it.
the idea there.
I'm lucky enough to have gone to all of them. Now I can't decide which one I like, except I
Uh,
just tried to make a reservation at Farm for my girlfriend's birthday on September 3rd and didn't realize that y'all are closed on Thursdays. So I kept saying, why isn't
mm,
open table working? And then I figured it out. Um,
yeah.
so
We
now I
close
want to,
on Thursdays because of street fair because parking is
oh, of
crazy.
course. I'm
Yeah.
glad we're talking about it because I was wondering and I never even thought that you're absolutely right. And I do want to switch gears here a little bit because you talked about your husband Mark earlier. So your family are all an important part of the business. What is it really like working together as a family, and how do you divide the responsibilities?
Uh, it's good because he and I have the same philosophies on most things, and that's probably why we don't have other partners because we know each other well enough now. We've been married 25 years, been together 29, so we know we know what each other's thinking all the time, and so that part works well. And we're collectors, and so I look at each four of these restaurants as ways to have art galleries.
Yeah.
you know and so we have four art galleries, and so he and I do the treasure hunting together, and so we love that aspect of it. And the way we divide it is, I'd say I'm more responsible for the community involvement. I'm on more of the boards and things like that, and I am more involved in the design aspects. What tile we're going to pick, what fabrics, that kind of thing. And then we both do a lot of the tastings, and Mark is more responsible for the financial and business end of it. And then we know everybody's name. So every food runner, every dishwasher, so we're both involved with the people pretty regularly. So
You've said your philosophy for life can be summed up in one four-letter word, and that is love.
yeah.
How does that philosophy influence the way you treat your employees and your guests and the greater Palm Springs community?
Well, we're both people of faith, and so I'm always going to say, the two greatest commandments, entitle the entire um, basis for us is love God, love people, and if you love people well, you're never going to go wrong. And so we believe that this is an extended family. We have children; they're grown and gone. We have grandchildren, and now we have almost 300 new ones. So our whole our whole goal is to help launch these people because whatever their dream is my dream for them. And so people are unique, and I want them to live their authentic life and to do whatever it is they want to do. And if they want to stay in the hospitality business, great. But if this is a stepping off point to do something different, then we want to love them through that. And then we also believe that in generosity. So when you're given much, much is required. And so we also want to then be good to them in terms of their incomes and salaries and benefits and trips and things that I can share with them because I feel like one of the things that we've been blessed with is the opportunity to see the world. And so we try to give that to them as much as possible because I think that's just so eye-opening to everybody.
Sort of on that note, your restaurants have been extraordinary supporters of like DAP Health that I spoke of earlier, particularly through Dining Out for Life. Why is access to healthcare such a personal and important cause for you?
Well, I think it's a basic human right. So I don't even think that this should be a question. This is something we should all have access to. And what I appreciate about DAP is the local feel of it, and to have that level of healthcare right here in our own backyard is unbelievable. And so, what DAP has done for decades, really, in this valley, and does just it's not replicated anyplace else. And so it's special to me that Dining Out for Life, that Palm Springs, I think, is either the second or third in the entire world in terms of fundraising for Dining Out for Life, and our restaurants are the number one fundraiser in the group one number one group in this area. And someday I'm going to figure out how to get this number, but I wondered if you took our restaurant group and put that all over the world, where we fall in terms of fundraising across the world, because I bet it's up there. But I think it's important just because I think everybody's important and everybody's health is important, and we have such a beautiful community here and such a great asset in DAP. And so I want to support that along with all the other things that we support.
Ditto. We do too. And many others. You were also involved with the Pay It Circle campaign. And what is Pay It Circle and how can Palm Springs residents and visitors participate?
Well, we kind of started this back during COVID, and we're not doing the videos as much anymore because it was a way for me to figure out how to help other businesses and help a videographer in town that was out of work. So he was out of work during COVID, and a lot of the artists, they didn't have the ability to draw unemployment, all the things that some people had during COVID. And so I kind of looked around and thought, okay, who's hurting here? And Jacob was one of those people that was hurting. So I said, hey, I'd like to hire you. You follow me around. We're going to go to businesses that are open, either essential businesses or other businesses that are able to stay open. And we're going to either buy a gift card, give it to somebody else so that we kind of pay it circle that way. We're going to buy something in their store. We're going to highlight them so that other businesses can know about them and see kind of some of these small mom and pops so that they can go either buy a meal or buy a trinket or something. And so we did that. And the whole concept of that was that, a lot of people have talked about, in fact, there was a movie about pay it forward.
Yes.
And it's a great idea. But to me, paying something forward, it has a linear feel, right? It's almost like it goes straight out and it never stops. Whereas Pay It Circle is sort of like a big hug. And it's a way to keep your benefit and your support within your own community. And so taking DAP, for instance, as a concept, people visit our restaurants and then that helps us and helps our almost 300 employees And those 300 employees have families, and so it helps them. And so then it's my obligation to then help the people that help me, and help the people that I love that are in our restaurant, that are our staff members. And so by helping local healthcare, you're helping this community. So trying to keep things within our circle here, and really just helps all of us. Yeah.
You probably already said this because you said so much and you're just such a good inspiration. Finally, when someone walks into one of your restaurants, what do you hope they feel and what do you hope they take with them when they leave?
Mhm.
Besides a full belly.
Yeah, well, that's probably the least of it in some ways, you know. And I feel like you can have a meal anywhere, Valerie. You know,
Yeah.
you and I are probably both good cooks, and we can make a meal at home. But what I want is I want people to have an experience when they come in. And that experience means that they've had good food, good ambiance, and they've been cared for by good people. And so, I think that kind of starts at the top down, and we need to like demonstrate that love to our staff. And if our staff feels love, they're going to demonstrate it to the guest. And then the guest is going to feel love. They're going to leave and they're going to be in hopefully a better mood, and they're going to demonstrate it to the people that they come in contact with. So I think that I want that love that we feel to flow from the top down all the way through when people leave, that they feel good about their life and they feel good about their experience. But I'd say just experiential dining, because I want them to awaken all of the senses when they come in, and not just have a good meal, but I want them to begin eating with their eyes when they walk in. I want them to be delighted. I want the smells to be good, the aromas to be good, the visuals to be good, the kindness. I want the whole experience to be something that causes them to want to come back again and again, and which helps all of our people. And then if we turn around and use that money to help our community, it helps our community. And so it's that pay it circle concept.
That is fantastic. And it's such a
Yeah.
pleasure to see you again. And hopefully we'll see you out there in one of the restaurants or on the streets or at an event. But I appreciate your time so much, Liz. And we are the HollywoodTimes.net and AspiringMagazine.com. And I look forward to dining with you again.
Thanks, Valerie. You're the best.
All right, ditto.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Have a great rest of your day.
Talk soon.
Bye-bye,
Bye.
Liz.